Okay. So 1, 2, clap. Okay.
Yeah. Alrighty. 1, 2. Alright.
That was pretty good.
That was really good. We're already on sync with this.
Yeah.
Welcome to the first official episode of the Kutztown Podcast. I am your host, Sebastian Bubba, and at my... this would be my left side. And why don't you two introduce yourselves?
I am Andrew Barr. I'm a CTM major here at Kutztown.
And to my right is our special guest for today.
Hi, I'm Kiana Skagar, and I am in the Masters of Education program here at Kutztown.
Right. So going into this, at Kutztown, we talk about all different kinds of majors, organizations, just people all throughout the ground level of like the campus. So why don't you explain what your major is to the people at home? Because I didn't even know.
Yeah, so I am in the Masters of Education, so it is the Student Affairs and Higher Education program. It is a mouthful. A lot of people really don't know what it is, but I don't blame them. It is very niche. If you're in higher education, you probably know about it, but basically it's higher education administration, to put it simply. So you can do anything from academic advising, you could work in financial aid, you could do orientation, student success, student involvement, anything that's like in the umbrella of like a college department or office. That's the kind of job you would get with this major.
Oh, that's actually pretty cool. How did you originally get into that major?
Yeah, so I went to Penn State for my undergrad, and during that I was really involved. Like I did orientation, I was in Greek life, I worked for the Student Engagement Network on campus. So I did a lot of stuff. I was a very busy bee despite COVID and everything like that. And I remember it was my sophomore year. I was in student government. I was the vice president for one semester. And I was talking to one of our advisors, and I was like in such a stump, like I didn't know what I wanted to do. I came into college undecided. And I was like, I always saw myself in education, but like, did I really want to deal with kids? So I was kind of going through this thing, like I want to do biology or psychology or something like that. So it was just kind of like I was at this rut, and talking to my advisors, I was like, I don't know what to do. And they were like, well, have you ever considered higher education? Because it's already, what you're familiar with. And I was like, no, I didn't. So that's kind of like what led me to where I am now. I do have a bachelor's of arts in sociology and a minor in social justice and education. So I feel like coming in, like I already know a lot of like the theories and stuff that like we talk about in class, but it's just applying them now to students. So it's really interesting just to do like kind of see where all the students are at on campus and like what they're up to just with like what I know. But that's just like my sociology background, being nosy with everyone,
That is actually really interesting, because I remember I took my sociology class like all the way back at Northampton, my original community college, and it's just like such an interesting field to get in, because it's just like you understanding like social norms, or at least that's my interpretation of it, and just like understanding people and why trends happen, why we do the things that we do like today. And you hitting the stump kind of reminded me of when I was in Northampton, like, because when leaving high school, I hate the stipulation that like you need to know what you're doing once you leave high school, because I had no idea what I wanted to do. Like I went into Northampton for an engineering degree, and I failed so bad. And literally my second attempt was like, I like making things, I like TV, I like cinema, so I joined the CTM major at Northampton at first, and I was the happiest I've ever been doing stuff. And honestly, it's just like when you just reach like that point, especially leaving, like it's fine how it's interesting how you wanted to like teach people afterwards, because like if this didn't work out, I wanted to be a history teacher. I thought that would have been a really cool thing, especially like helping kids, like, and I love like American history a lot.
Yeah, my last semester at Penn State with my minor, I did this class where I was tutoring kids at, it was over Zoom, but it was through this project based out of Hazleton, and I loved it so much. But then I'm like, to be a teacher, all the lesson plans and all the timing to go into, I'd rather do the back end of stuff, doing administration and things like that.
Nice.
Yeah.
So do you have like an ideal job you want afterwards? Like, where you actually in, but like, do you like going to the majors? They're like top choice. What would you want to go into?
Yeah, so right now I'm kind of at a little bit of a crossroads with that just because right now I'm in the part of my program where I've started thinking about internships for next year. So I would love to do student involvement. So basically doing a lot of things with organizations and clubs on campus, figuring out who to bring onto campus, like performers and things like that. But I also do love orientation, so I would love to get to know more of that. Like one job that could not see myself doing is being like an academic advisor or something like that. Um, I think what they do is great, but personally, I just couldn't see myself doing that. So yeah, so basically student involvement or orientation.
That's honestly just that does sound like really fun, especially for the
Yeah.
orientation part. It's a shame they were doing something. I think it was yesterday. Wasn't it called like the Kindness Carnival?
Yeah, I was working there.
Oh, what was that about?
So I'm not too sure, like exactly how it came about, but I know it's an annual program that Kutztown does. It's through a club called, I believe, Kindness of Rachel. So they organized it. It had a lot of like really cool things. Like I know one group was doing like vision boards. The Community Outreach Center, which is where I have my graduate assistantship out on campus. We did I am statements, so that was really fun. We're gonna hang them up in our office. It was just a lot of like mindfulness activities and things like that.
That does sound really
Yeah.
cool. It is a shame I don't really attend much orientations. I don't know why, but it's like a fun thing to do. So to the next question, did you go with the major after you went to Kutztown, or did you go into Kutztown knowing that you wanted to like do this?
Yeah, so grad school's a little different because you can't just go in undecided,
Yeah.
right? So when I was applying to programs, I actually applied to four different programs. I heard back from three of them, and I only applied to student affairs and higher education programs. So when you're going to grad school, it's very much like you have to know what you're doing. So a lot of people, when they apply to grad school, they apply to different programs. So someone going into my program could have applied to counseling or psychology or something like that. But I just like knew, like I don't know, something just told me like this is what I should do. So
It does honestly just hit you like that.
yeah.
Like, like when I finally, I sound like a broken record again, but when I was thriving in Northampton, I'm like, I did it. I
Mhm.
finally figured out what I wanted to do for my life.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people like there are a lot of pressures like when you're going through college, if you have if you have support, whether it's family or friends or even coworkers or other people in your class, it's very much I don't want to say a competition, but a lot of people see college as a race. You go in, you're here for 4 years.
Yeah.
Some people get done early, like I got done my undergrad early. Some people get done late, which is totally fine. Like I tell everyone, we're all in different boats. And a lot of people don't realize that, like when they're in college, but like some people come in, they're a freshman, they're 20 years old compared to everyone else who's, 17, 18. So I feel like a lot of people just need to, take it day by day, take it class by class.
Yeah, my brother, my older brother, he went back into community college because he was like very excited. He loved seeing what I was doing and he wanted to do that as well. And he was like so worried going in, like 'cause he's 25 and he felt
Yeah.
bad going in like next to people who were like 19 or 20. And I'm
Mhm.
like, don't feel bad. Honestly,
Yeah.
be happy that you're doing it.
Yeah.
Like there are so many people who go in. There are so many people who just like they have no real direction in life,
Mhm.
and like there were people in me and Andrew's class. We went to Northampton together who were like in their 50s, like maybe mid 30s, and it's just like it's never too late to start. Don't ever feel like you're late to the party or anything.
Yeah. I agree with that.
So at the end of you saying like you had to know what you wanted to do to come into grad school, did you do any internships while you were at Penn State or anything like that that really put you on that path?
Yeah, so higher ed is a very different field just because, like let's say like you're in finance, you could find an internship at a bank or like a Fortune 500 or something like that. Higher education, it's all based on experiences you've had in undergrad. So I mentioned that I was really involved in a lot of different areas throughout my undergrad, so that really solidified it for me. But my senior year of Penn State, I was an intern for the Student Engagement Network. So for that, I was helping students get connected to a lot of clubs and resources that we had on campus, and also doing some tabling events, like a study abroad fair, talking about the grant that we offer for that and things like that. But that was my only like real internship experience. A lot of it is just like on the way.
Nice. So, I'm going off of some questions, so one sec. How would you describe your educational journey so far?
Definitely crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I started college, I was only 17. So I graduated high school early. I literally had no idea what I wanted to do. It was mostly like, like, oh, like you like science, so like go into science. And I originally wanted to be a doctor. So either way, I always saw myself pursuing some kind of degree past my bachelor's. But, after my sophomore year hit, I was like, oof, it's not these 100 level classes anymore. It's pretty tough. And that kind of put me on a road of like, I literally don't know what I'm gonna do. Like I'm 18, like I'm working a lot because I had a job and I just had some other things going on. So it was just very much like I had a lot going on, but that craziness kind of led me to figuring out like what I'm doing. And then it was just a deal of, I also dealt with COVID, which you guys might have dealt with in your undergrad. So it was like I finally got like used to being on campus, solidifying myself my freshman, sophomore year. Spring semester, sophomore year hits. We have no idea what we're doing on Zoom. My professors, like, they have their cameras to their foreheads. Like, like, we had no idea what we were doing, right? Like, we were all stuck at home. We really had no idea what was going on. And then it was a deal where, I had an apartment out in State College my junior year. All my classes were online. I signed my lease February 2020. What a worse time to sign your lease, right?
Oh
So,
boy.
yeah, and then my senior year, we still had all the COVID guidelines of, having to wear a mask, like having to get tested, all this stuff. So it was I don't want to say a scary time, but it's definitely a time that will definitely go down in history books. This is my first year, like fully in person, no regulations since basically my freshman year, which is crazy to think about.
It's just insane, especially because when COVID started, I was just starting my CTM major.
Yeah.
And like it was just going leisurely pace, like everything's normal, and then all of a sudden, don't go to class, you can't, like there's a virus that's spreading, just stay home right now. We just got like T-boned by COVID.
I think COVID really showed like teachers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like the ones had to adapt, or otherwise it was like time to retire or look at stuff like that. So I think there was definitely a big turnover, especially like in the education system during COVID.
Yeah, and that's actually like I'm happy you brought that up because that's like a big issue that higher ed faced. So a lot of people, either retired or a lot of the jobs got condensed. So like for example, there's one person that I work with, they're an assistant director, but they deal with the MSU staff, but they also oversee Greek life because that got absorbed from another position. So it's very like weird how higher education got shifted because a lot of jobs got cut. So a lot of people are doing the jobs of, 1.5 or 2 people. So that's something that I definitely considered going into the job force, but I'm still doing it. So
one thing I was most terrified about, especially on Zoom, is when you go to college, you want to like make friends, you want to start friend groups again, like you want like a new like generation of people to meet and talk to. And I was so scared for the first couple semesters of COVID that wasn't happening much, because it's just like you could be the friendliest person, most sociable person. Zoom will not help you at all, because like people are either they don't have their camera on, they just don't want to be involved, they're like very shy, reserved, dismissive. Like me and Andrew had a couple of Zoom sessions together like before like we actually like met up in person, and like no one talked to each other, and like
Well, because it's like after the class ends on Zoom, right? Everyone logs off.
Yeah.
It's no like, sitting and like talking in the class or in the hallway as like walking to the next class. It's like everyone like, I would never stay on Zoom past when the class was. I'd always be like, okay, class is done, and just be like, let me get off of this screen time as close as I could. But going on to like the jobs shrinking because of COVID and stuff like that, do you think it will expand again, or do you think it's locked where it is of people working multiple jobs or what used to be multiple jobs?
Yeah. I can only hope so. I know a lot of universities and colleges right now, the one thing they're mostly dealing with is, okay, so COVID happened, right? A lot of people, that planned on enrolling didn't enroll. Like, numbers shrunk. So it was a deal where, now they have less money than they did before. Now with, this post-COVID world we're dealing with, a lot of people, want to go back to school. And it's really interesting because now, since we are going through an inflation period, a lot of people go back to higher ed, like when they get, if they get cut from their job or something like that, or if they want to continue their education and make more money. So I feel like it's definitely a lot of like growing and like shrinking. So, but I could only hope that, they make the jobs more flexible too. I know one big issue is that academic advisors, they deal with a lot of students, all day. And they wanted to have like a hybrid schedule, where they're on campus and on Zoom. But a lot of universities like won't allow that, which is really interesting because it's like they're mostly meeting with students in an office. So I feel like if they make the positions more flexible, because I know a lot of people see the workforce a lot different now because, so many people, we're in an office all day, then they're working at home. So it's like, why would they come back to an office when they can clearly get the job done at home?
Yeah, like my mom works for a hospital. She works as like work relations between like the higher ups and like the like regular workers. And I think she used to work, well, she would have been working at like the actual complex itself, but now because of COVID, she was restricted to like a stay-at-home job.
Yeah.
And honestly, I felt like COVID did help like revamp a lot of different jobs, like reinvent them. I feel like this was a huge step up for like online communication, especially with like sites like Zoom, because beforehand we had Skype, and I I think Skype probably died for a reason.
Yeah.
Was it because Zoom just focused more on group
Yeah, so
meetings?
Skype had a smaller amount of people it could offer, where Zoom had a broader. So it's if you're going to be able to teach to 100 kid classes, like you're going to have to go with Zoom or something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, it's just absolutely crazy. Like we'll probably never experience anything like this again.
Yeah.
And like it's just crazy that we're going through a pandemic that was just like this catastrophic in places.
Yeah, it was really scary because where I live back home, I live in the Hazleton area, if you guys know where that is.
Yeah.
And we had one of the highest rates of COVID in the whole US
Really?
because a lot of people have factory jobs or delivery jobs or things like that. So they had very high contact jobs. And on top of that, I was working at Sheetz during the time. So it's like I also live with my grandparents back home. So I was so scared that like, I was going to get COVID and all that. Of course, I didn't get COVID until 2022 for the first time. I just had it a few weeks ago. So it's just like,
Oh, that's fun.
yeah.
It's the same for me. My mom recently, I feel like she has just a more weakened immune system. Like a couple years ago, she got like pneumonia, so I feel like she's still very vulnerable there. So like the last thing I want is just to get COVID, because it's just like you are a serious threat to just your entire family. And like we're of course like vaccinated and everything, but you never know. COVID's just very unpredictable like that.
Yeah, it's definitely something.
Yeah.
The last, I think, what was it? The first semester here was like the real of no restrictions, and it was just like our college campuses, right, where people are living in smaller dorms, like usually with the roommate is you're worried about the spread and stuff like that. But
Yeah. Well, anyway, to quickly move on, where have you struggled the hardest in terms of like just pursuing this major?
Okay, that's actually a very easy question for me. It would have to be time management and balancing my graduate assistantship and work. So a lot of grad students at Kutztown have graduate assistantships. So I like to tell everyone it's like a fake salary job, right? So basically you're on a contract, you work 300 hours a semester.
Wow.
It sounds scary, but it's only like 20, 25 hours a week. You get a
Oh.
stipend, so it's like you get the same paycheck every 2 weeks. That's why I say it's fake salary.
Mm.
So you're dealing with a lot of students. Like I know there's a lot of different jobs. So for my GA-ship, I work in the Community Outreach Center, so I do a lot of the community outreach, like all the volunteer programs I work with. I also work with Kutztown Votes, which is the nonpartisan voting efforts on campus.
Oh, okay.
So I do a lot, and there was recently some switch ups in my office. Like my boss, he left for another position, and the other graduate assistant unfortunately couldn't stay in the program this semester. So it's basically me manning the whole office. So that's been a little scary to transition into because, now I have to do a lot of stuff that, my boss was doing that I never thought to think of, like time cards or making sure everyone's putting their time in. So it's definitely been interesting having to deal with that and just kind of, learning the ropes. But also on top of that, like Monday and Wednesdays, I work 5 hours, then I'm in class for 3 hours. So it's just kind of, having to balance time. And I'm very big on telling everyone, work is all fun, but like you need your playtime too. So it's just very much finding, the work-life balance, trying to figure out, okay, I have this big paper due next week. Can I, work on it for an hour and then go out to reward myself? So it's very much a learning process. And grad school too is very independent. It's very much like, you're not for yourself. It's just finding your community there to support you. My cohort in my program, they are really great when it comes time to like, if someone's going through something or if someone needs help on an assignment, we all have each other's backs, and it's nice seeing everyone in the MSU, So we have our own like little family within my program, which definitely helps.
Honestly, like, I can relate to that entirely, especially for this semester, because the past 2 semesters, I would just like, well, for my first semester, I only had like 4 classes that time because just like, it's a long story, but anyway, I had 4 classes, so I had a lot of free time, and unfortunately, I used that free time to just take the fattest naps. I just slept a lot during my first semester, and I was trying to fix that in the second semester. I didn't do that, but at least I had an extra class to worry about, so like a bit more busy. This one, I have 5 classes, and I'm doing this independent study, and it's just been around the clock right now. And just like constantly, there's always something to do. There's always something I need to work on or something to fix up. Unfortunately, I didn't really have much free time. Thankfully, like during the nights, I have free time with like to hang out with friends and roommates. But usually during the day, it's kind of a no-go. It's just kind of you're always working on something or contributing. But to be honest, I kind of like it a lot. Like it is stressful a lot of the time, but I always just look at myself like you were probably just gonna be laughing about this like later on, and you're just gonna be like very happy that you managed to like stick with something that's just so like constant.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm the kind of person where like I just have to keep going and going and going. But sometimes I do forget about my homework, which definitely
Yeah.
sucks. So right now with like all the changes that happened in my office this semester, I've been a lot more like, okay, like this is my calendar. Okay, I'm making dinner this time, working on homework, seeing friends this time. It's also different too in grad school because I only take 9 credits a semester,
Mm.
which doesn't sound like a lot, but when you have to read like 200 pages for your class next week and write about it,
Oh
yeah.
my God.
Yeah.
Now, I've been talking about being around the clock. Andrew is like on a different level compared to me. Andrew, what do you have to do for your workload?
Well, it all depends on, right? It's building up. Like, you can't just jump into a busy workload or anything like that. And, like, that's the great thing about schooling and stuff is just working up to points. Like, I came from a household where, like, family owned a restaurant. So I was helping out at the restaurant at a young age. So just able to do stuff like that. But yeah, it's just taking classes and working as a student is always a thing. I find reminders on my iPhone is the biggest thing for stuff to do to keep moving. But
Now,
Yeah.
Andrew, last time I checked, you have 3 jobs.
I do currently have 3 jobs,
Wow.
yes, and I'm a full-time student. But
Wow.
you make it work, you
This
know.
is this is exactly what I mean. I have no jobs, but 6 courses is too much for me. But I'm powering through. Hopefully, like once I get out, like I didn't really have a job outside of my father's company I've been working at, like during the off time, like for breaks and stuff. But Yeah, hopefully when I get out, I can just immediately get a job. Hopefully I can get the internship that hopefully will pay because like I know the owner like loosely, like they're friends of my cousins and they seem like a really nice person. I think they said that they could do a salary for the internship, so I'm just fingers crossed on
Dang,
that.
that would be awesome. Look, I tell everyone, I'm like, free labor is slavery.
Yeah.
Do not have a free internship. I mean, there are some points in time where like you absolutely have to take one if you really need that experience. But like also too, there's so many grants and things of that sort you can get through the state. You just have to know where to find them.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Is that a big thing, like, you have learned through your major and, like, stuff like that? Is just, like, these things, like, about these grants and stuff like that to really help a student who's in, like, an unpaid internship or something like that?
So it's not necessarily something I've learned on the job, but it is something that I've learned dealing with students. So I supervise 6 undergrads for my job, but where my office is, I'm right across from the Fireside Lounge in MSU, so I constantly have students coming in. And I'm also an event coordinator for Office of Student Involvement, so I work a lot at the events too. So it's like I'm meeting so many students. And when a student is stressed out or something, you would be amazed at the stuff they tell me, whether it's the first time I've met them or like the 20th time I've met them. It's just, you kind of learn a lot of these things as you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's just like endurance of just like time management and
hmm
stuff.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing. Just like find something that works for you. My friends say I'm crazy because I'm such a sticky note person. I have a wall of sticky notes. Okay, get your oil changed for your car. You have an appointment Friday, 10 a.m. Podcast 7 p.m. Thursday. People think I'm crazy, but it's like if I don't see it, out of sight, out of mind.
Mm-hmm.
I am kind of the exact same way, especially for my class. I have a couple classes that are just assignment upon assignment, and I'm always worried one's gonna just sneak up on me. I usually tend to have reminders. I'm a very diligent person. I like to consider myself one. Like I always try to make sure I have everything done on time, and I always check frequently just to make sure. But there's always just a stress about it. But usually I'm fine in
hmm
terms of it. Now to quickly move on.
Yeah.
What are your aspirations for the future?
Ooh, that is a great question. Definitely short term, finding an internship that I am happy with. I am trying to find stuff for the summer, but it is a little tricky. Um, graduate May 2024.
Yeah.
Woo! Just and also too, like find somewhere that I like to work. The nice thing about working in higher ed is that you can live in a college town for the rest of your life. And there's nothing better than being able to walk everywhere. I do like to drive, but just being able to leave my car somewhere and walk to work is so great. Especially working right on campus, like when the weather's nice, I'll just walk from AP. And that's something I value, walkability, which is very weird, but it is definitely nice just, leave my car at home and just not have to worry about it.
Save the money on the
Yeah,
gas and
save the
stuff
money
Gas
like
on
that.
prices, oh
gas.
my God,
Yeah.
right now.
I also will admit I don't have a parking pass, so I've just been kind of
Are you one of the cars that they threatened or tow?
no, I've never gotten a ticket or anything, knock on wood,
I
which is
think
crazy.
I think it's just people who don't move their car.
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
Yeah,
Oh,
how that
so
works.
I've been blessed with that. Not getting a ticket. It is funny though. I am trying to be on the University Traffic Bureau,
Ooh.
so but I don't parking pass. So
I'll take this off the
yeah,
record if
yeah.
need be.
No, it's okay. Yeah, definitely find somewhere that I like to work and enjoy working at. Don't know if it's gonna be in Pennsylvania. I've lived in PA basically all my life, but I kind of want to go somewhere fun. You
Yeah.
know?
Honestly, just a college town environment is just
Yeah.
so fun. I kind of envy people who just live here. It's just like more of a simple life. Just
Mhm.
I like Kutztown a lot because it's just like kind of very rural, like back roads. Like there's not really a lot to do, but what there is to do is like very community focused. It's just
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about Kutztown. Like, there's such a community, Like, I go out, I run into someone I know or someone I know that they know. So it's really nice, like, being able to just see a lot of familiar faces. At Penn State, like, that really wasn't a thing because the school was so big. So it's nice, or like, I feel like, I don't know, just even like my work environment too. It's like we're all there for each other. And I feel like a lot of people, like, in school and in town, like, would have my back if I ever needed them.
Have you ever been to a Renninger's?
I have not been there yet.
Do you know what it is at least?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's only like 5 minutes away.
Mhm.
That the community in there is like so charming. It's so nice. Just a bunch of people going to like this one like small barn kind of
Mm-hmm.
area, and like it's just full of different people, different organizations in Kutztown. It's
Mm-hmm.
just a breath of fresh air. Like if you're coming from like more of a city background, like suburban background, it's just nice.
Yeah.
Every farmer I've met here, or just like anyone who's like back roads, so nice, so generous, happy to talk to people,
Mm-hmm.
so accommodating. It's just Kutztown's just a nice place for a campus.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I feel like there haven't really been a lot of people or even really anyone at all that like I've had a problem with, you know. I feel like everyone's like willing to talk or like at least like be upfront when it comes to things, you know.
Yeah, especially when you're a film student, you're asking to like film in people's like fields or just like their
Mm-hmm.
ranches, and they're just like, oh, absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's
And they're
awesome.
just so nice about it. Like, my God.
I
Mm-hmm.
just love seeing the horse and buggies just going
I know.
through. It always brings a
Yeah.
smile to my, like, you see some big horses just running through town. It's like, that's
You
cool.
drive through campus, you just see like a horse crossing sign. It's like, this isn't Easton where I'm from. This isn't
Yeah.
Yeah,
beautiful.
it's definitely interesting. My favorite thing is when they're coming down Main Street and they have the LED strips all lit up.
Oh yeah.
That's funny.
I need to go. I need to go throughout town during that, because like this is my first semester where I actually brought a car with me this time, because I
Okay,
was
yeah.
always scared of driving down the Kutztown. I'm not a highway person.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so honestly, in terms of what job I want, I just hope it's somewhere like at least a little close to home. Like I have very small aspirations for this future at least, but I hope to move on to do bigger stuff.
Hmm.
Hopefully. Hopefully it's just something more manageable for me. I don't want to like fly all the way down to like California and just try not to die in traffic.
Yeah.
I will say that's the nice thing about Kutztown though is we are like more rural, right? We have horse and buggies just on the roads and stuff like that. But to get to bigger places like a big box store or anything, it's a like 20-minute drive either direction really to get to somewhere
Hmm.
bigger that has a lot more stuff, which is a nice thing.
Yeah, it is nice. It's definitely a blessing and a curse driving on 222.
Mm.
I wish there was an easier way to get to places that I need to go.
Oh my God, the amount of roundabouts you have to take to go places. There's
I've
so many
never
roundabouts.
seen a roundabout before coming to Kutztown.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, straight up, like I saw one. I'm like, I've read about these when I was going for my license, and I was like, this
Oh my
is pretty crazy. But I don't know. I like them. I like it more than the stop sign personally. So like, you feel like you're moving around, right? It feels like you're going faster, but how much faster? I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, what are you? This is a weird question I put, but what are you doing at this moment for right now? Just like,
Yeah. So I am a grad student. So right now I'm in 2 out of the 3 classes that I'm taking. My one class actually ends next week. So it's nice that I don't have to worry with that class with spring break coming up. But then I start a new class after the break. I do also have my grad assistantship. That keeps me pretty busy, keeps me on my toes. But other than that, just chilling.
Chilling on a
Yeah.
podcast.
Just chilling. Yeah, honestly, I'm just trying to take in this year because it's my first year out here, and I'm just trying to, live it up as much as I can in Kutztown. It's definitely, like going into like next year in my program, that's definitely the more intensive year. So I'm just trying to be an adult, but as not as much as an adult that I need to be for next year, which is nice that I have that balance.
yeah, not the. I mean this in like the least rude way possible. When you saw the initial flyer, what made you want to like actually be on the podcast?
I've always wanted to be on a podcast, and I was like, well, what better time than now? I'm
I
very
guess
much
it's
like
fair
a,
enough.
if I don't do it now, then will I ever do it kind of thing. So,
Yeah, I always wanted to do a podcast, especially back home with like my brother and his friends.
yeah.
And seeing like that there's an opportunity to do just a independent study, which I didn't even know was a thing until like the end of the second semester.
Yeah.
I was told I could do something like that, and I was like, sign me up. This is a great opportunity to finally like dip my toes in just like the podcasting like scene. it was way more of an endeavor than I ever anticipated, but still I'm just happy that I'm trying it, something to add to a demo reel or just like a
Yeah.
resume.
Honestly, it's better to try it than to have never tried anything.
Oh,
Think about
absolutely.
it like sushi,
Are you a big fan of sushi?
I
Or
do love sushi, yes.
did you ever go to roll?
Philly roll
Philly roll?
or California roll.
I'm a big California roll type of
Yeah.
person, honestly.
Can't go wrong with it. See, the Philly roll, it's like the California roll, but it has cream cheese in it, so it's like a little surprise.
Yeah,
A
that's
little surprise.
a little
Is there a
surprise.
good place around here to get sushi? I've heard rumors of an all-you-can-eat sushi place.
Okay, I have not heard of that place, but okay, you guys are gonna think I'm crazy. Wegmans. Wegmans has the best sushi if you ever want to like go out there.
Wegmans is crazy. It's
Dude,
huge.
They have everything.
Wegmans
have
is
everything.
like a S tier grocery store. That is like the archetypal, like, it is insane going in there.
Yeah.
It's like entering a different world.
Yeah, and if we're talking about like sushi and like all the other stuff that they have, they make it all in store.
Yeah.
So it's like fresh, it's good, it's scrump, as my undergrad say.
Where is the closest Wegmans? Like, how far away is it from campus?
So it's like 25 minutes.
Okay.
So I think it's by the Target by Cedar Crest,
Mhm.
if you know where that is. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Nice.
That's your sushi tips.
Yeah. I haven't really like explored a lot of like the restaurants around here. Honestly, like when I go out, it's to pub. So
Yeah.
can't go
For-
wrong with the
For
barbecue.
me, I've been going to Kutztown Tavern
Mhm.
and Osgood's mainly. It,
Have you been to Osgood's?
I have not been to Osgood's yet, but one of my really good friends, he works there, and he's like, "You have to go."
So it's
I've
good.
been
It's
there.
like, I don't know. It gets away from like, because the pub will get busy, right? Like,
Yeah.
because they do stuff and like it's hard to find a table. But Osgood, it's like just far enough away. Like only people with like cars on campus really
Mhm.
go
Yeah.
to it. But I would check it out.
I
It's a
also-
sleeper.
I also forgot to mention the airport diner.
I
Like
do.
the
APD,
most
yes.
perfect location for a diner.
Mhm.
It's so nice.
Yeah, I have been to APD. I haven't been to Letterman's yet.
Oh
I've
yeah.
heard conflicting
Oh,
things about
Letterman's.
it.
Yeah, I want to try that place. I like small, like, dingy looking diners. I mean that in the nicest
Yeah.
way possible.
Because they have
But
the best food,
Mhm,
and you get so
mhm.
much for your buck.
Yeah.
have you been there?
No,
Oh,
I'm just saying, like dingy looking diners.
Yeah, but like right, it's like it's the reverse of like judging a book by its cover. Like I don't know.
Mhm.
If you get like fast food in like a greasy paper bag, you know that's
You know it's
that's
gonna
where
be
it's
good.
at.
You know
right?
it's
I don't
gonna
want a
be
pristine looking thing. So like yeah, some places like the worse they look on the outside, the better the food's
The
gonna
better
be.
they are on the inside. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I mean dingy in the nicest way possible again, because if you look at it from the outside, it just looks like it's just built in an alleyway, kind of.
Yeah.
All you have is just this small sign pointing in like this is Letterman's. I want to try it one day. We should go there one morning.
Put it on the food list.
If we
Yeah.
can't afford a waffle Saturday, we can go there. All right, now to wrap things up, what do you have to say for those like in a similar position who are struggling?
Yeah, I would definitely say one thing that I tell my undergrads all the time is don't compare yourself to others. One thing I do actually have background on this. I took a whole class on student development theory. Everyone is literally in their same boat. Everyone is where they're meant to be. Like if you're a semester ahead, if you're a semester behind, you're all going like we're all going through our journeys at the same time, but we're all on separate paths. You know, it's like running a marathon. Like some people walk it out, some people jog it out, some people sprint. Don't compare yourself to the time where you get to the finish line. That's the best thing. Also, too, I will say, I know like when you're in your undergrad, the biggest thing is, like GPA. Now, I will say GPA is weighted differently depending on, like what you're doing and where you're at. But, like for example, like if you're an engineering major, a 2.5 is going to look decent compared to someone that's maybe like an English or sociology major if they have like a 3.5 or like a 4.0. So like college majors, I know everyone says like some are easier than others, but like could an engineer write a paper that's like 15 pages long? Could like an elementary like social studies teacher do like calculus? We all have our own skills, and I feel like, so many people base them on, your major and things like that. But just because you can't do what someone else can doesn't mean you're doing something wrong.
Yeah. And honestly, just for like my position, I was always one with the idea of like, no matter how you attempt it and like if it ever doesn't really pan out, the fact that you went out and did it is worth like acknowledging. I was always one like, if someone ever put out a project that they thought was bad or like they were sad with, it's like that's still something you made. Like that's still something you could slap on a demo reel because like everything has good parts to it. No matter like what, everything you make shows something about you that like you can show someone. Like I don't ever think like anything's wasted in terms of like what you make or what you do. Because, like, when you ever think about it, like, you ever think you're a failure, like, I've come this far. I've done a lot of impressive stuff. Like, I remember when I took my first internship out of Northampton for, like, a movie production, I was so scared to do it. But now, like, looking back, I'm happy I did.
Yeah.
I'm happy I can say, like, I've done a movie internship. And, like, I was there and there was so much I've experienced and it was just so fun.
Yeah, there's definitely like everyone has their own experiences through college, whether they get involved or whether they're more academic or like some people might be working. We all go through it differently. And I feel like that's the biggest thing because so many people, watch movies, they're like, "Oh my God, like college is going to be this or that." No, college is really like what you make it, It's not going to be like like the big parties you see or like the nerds in the library, like it's just what you make it,
It's just people. It's just people just doing their own thing, just hanging out. Like this is just like an extension of like their day to day. Like we have like a venue and we're just making the best of it. And thankfully, I feel like I haven't really encountered like I guess like the jock stereotypes. I don't know why I'd acknowledge it, but like when you go into a campus as big as Kutztown, you're scared. You assume the worst immediately. But like I've met just amazing people. I've experienced a lot, like amazing professors, and like I'm just happy I'm here.
I will say that's the nice thing about Kutztown is like it's big enough while also being small enough. Like it's the perfect middle. Like you can know people and everyone's like nice in that area because like we all know each other, but it's also big enough that like if you have problems with someone you don't like you don't have to like interact with them constantly. So I think it's definitely a nice size of campus we have here.
Yeah, I do definitely like I feel like campus is like the perfect size, right? It's also nice that it's like literally split in half. So like when I walk from AP to campus, it's like, okay, you have South Side, which is like literally basically all dorms. Then you have the North Side, which is like all your buildings and stuff for class. So it's like nice that it's like broken in half, but like it's also big enough to where it's like, it's a decent walk. Like when I walk from here to MSU, it's like a 20-minute walk. But when I'm walking from MSU to AF to go get my Chick-fil-A, it's not even 5 minutes. Yeah. So it's like, it's nice that everything's so close, but also so far apart.
Well, if it wasn't so far apart, I'd be struggling in a health sense. Like, oh my God, my diet has been so bad. So I'm just happy I was able to like walk and like go places throughout and like saying like before I brought a car to campus, it's just been walking everywhere, just going into town walking. It's just like it's just a fun little community to like just be a part of.
Yeah, it's really funny like when I tell people that I walk from here to Main Street, they're like, "Oh my God, that's such a far walk." I'm like, I went to Penn State. When I lived on campus, one of my classes was more than a mile away from my dorm.
My gosh.
Just a class.
My God, my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, this was a fantastic first episode, I'd say. I should have asked you beforehand, but do you have like any like plugs that you want to give? Do you have any like social media that you want to bring up?
My personal Instagram, it's OMG Little Key. If you want to follow the Community Outreach Center on campus, it's Kutztown_COC. Yeah, those are my plugs.
Wonderful. I'm happy that you knew it like in the back of your mind because I'm horrible with social media, like in just remembering what I was. I'm so lazy that in editing I'm just gonna put it right here. Also, if you want to be a guest on the Kutztown podcast, you can email screencapproductions@gmail.com. It's actually screencapprod. Just shows how bad I am.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me. I really
Oh,
enjoyed being
absolutely.
here.
It's honestly just been so much fun to talk, and I'm just happy that like people are just interested in just the podcast itself. Again, I'm just thinking of when I initially got that email. I'm like, oh my God, the flyer worked.
Flyers and Yik Yak, I'm telling you.
Oh, absolutely.
So
Well,
look out on Yik Yak. There'll be a thing posted about the podcast.
moral of the story: go to Yik Yak. Well, thank you so much. This has been the Kutztown Podcast, and I just hope to do more with this. Still trying to figure out a good outro, and for those listening, have a great night.